Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Ray Esports Racing Winter Tour, live on Apex Racing TV. Absolutely over the moon to be with you tonight. I am your host, Jim Hodson. Joining me in the commentary booth is Tyler Newitt. And in the production booth is the inimitable Dennis Branch. People have tried to imitate him, and they have failed. That's why he's inimitable. Boy, do we have a great race for you tonight. We actually have a series of races. Tyler, do we not?
We do indeed. First up, we'll cover tonight first, I guess, since that's what's on the plate in front of you. It's the Skip Barber Formula 2000 car racing up against the Spec Racer Ford, a couple of iRacing classics, and I think, local racing classics. These are about as basic as they get. Obviously, these are not rookie cars. These are D-licensed cars, but still the kind of cars that you use coming up through the ranks in iRacing. I know I spent a lot of time in the Spec Racer Ford back in 2013 when I was first getting into iRacing, and spent plenty of time, my share of time in the Skippy as well. After that, we're going to have some front-wheel drive racing for you with the Audi TCR RS3 and the Mazda MX-5 Cup car. So should be in for a great night of fun, if slower than what we might be accustomed to racing.
I personally love these cars, and it will be an interesting matchup in the second race between a front-wheel drive car and the MX-5s, of course, being rear drive. So we'll see how they handle the different conditions. That's what we're in for tonight. But in this dual car race, unless I am very much mistaken, which is impossible, we will see all these cars gridded up sort of as a group. So if you look at the timing tower now to the left of your screen, you will see that these Skippies are dominating the times at the moment. Your first Spec Racer Ford is Gaspers in the number 17 machine at a 1:21.4. So he's coming on for, well, not quite a full second adrift, but just a little bit longer time than has Everard, who is at the top of the timing tower at that 1:20.7. And I think you'll continue to see the Skippies turning in a little bit faster time. And we were talking about this a little bit before the broadcast started. Tyler, we were trying to decide where the Spec Racer Fords can make time on the Skippies, weren't we?
It's true, as Hill goes to the top by just a whisker of a hair over Everard there with a 1:20.7. It's going to be interesting to watch because it's a group qualifying effort here, so we do get to a sense of what kind of the tow will do for times. But it's not a particularly big track here, and I wouldn't be surprised if what we're seeing as far as qualifying times maybe isn't even the ultimate pace of some of these cars, because there's just not a lot of room and there's a lot of cars on track. It's a great turnout tonight for this event. We get to see pretty substantial classes in both classes. So we're going to have to wait and see as far as who has the advantage where. Obviously, over the course of the lap, it looks like the Skippies are going to have the edge over the Spec Racer Fords. But that time from Gaspers is not anything to scoff at. It's certainly enough to keep the Skippies, honest as we move into the race. There's going to be some bumping and banging. We've seen it in practice. We've seen it in qualifying. There's going to be some trouble in the race. So if you're the top Spec Racer Ford, you're going to be looking to take advantage of that and move your way forward if you don't have the outright pace.
Yeah, no question. And you will notice, viewer, that the Spec Racer Ford will be a little bit more durable on track than will be the Skippy car, merely, just by nature of having its wheels covered and not having its sort of arrow on display presented for everybody to view. As you were just seeing us tick over toward the end of our qualifying session, I'm sure you've noted on screen here that some of these cars have come together and had their arrow bits moved around a little bit. I think that's certainly will not be the last time that you see that. So Rivard currently at the top of the timing tower, he just took that 1:23, just as Tyler was speaking there. And that is a solid time, as you alluded to. He's got, 4/10 on the rest of the field. And there is the end of qualifying, so we should start seeing these cars get their checkered flag. So they're probably going to end up just about here. Rivard is not able to better his time. I wonder where Hill is on track as we see a car launching.
Not on track at the moment, Jim. I think. I think this might be a case of Rivard is kind of the only driver who got clean track long enough to set his optimal lap time. I don't think when we get into the race we're going to see anybody run away with this one, even though the gap is pretty big. A 4/10 gap around Summit Point is not small by any means. You got to wonder if that's true pace or if that's just who put the lap together in qualifying. And I think that's what we're going to see when it all comes down to it. I think we're going to see Hill, Everard, Crab, the kind of top 4 or 5. Another
as we see
Racer
Lynn
Ford launches itself into the branches. I think that's what we're going to see here is a fierce battle without anyone really able to run away with it. But you never know.
You're absolutely right. I think we're in for some. What I'm hearing you say is we're in for a lot of entertainment, and I know that I know that is true. As of course we see Lynn, who is an experienced racer, by the way, launching himself into the trees. That was not a mistake. He did that on purpose for our enjoyment. So we should see our grid here shortly, whenever the electrons order themselves as they must, in order for us to learn who will be on the grid. Boy, that guy right there on the start finish tower is really still waving that flag to nobody, isn't he?
I think they call him Barney here on iRacing, the energetic flag man, always.
Do they?
Fully invested into his job.
Well done.
I remember
Barney.
that from when they were doing the NASCAR stuff there. That as we have the grid on our screens, you want to take it, Jim?
Surely. So in P1, Zachary Rivard, just there at the end of qualifying, was able to sneak a win out from under Justin Hill, followed by Reese Everard, Miles Crabb, Evan Rakusin, Andrew Whitston, Andrew Abbott, and here is your first SRF driver, David Gaspers, followed by Murphy Nichols, Zachary Whitston, Mitch Weatherly, Nick Hems, I'm guessing in P12. Followed by Mark Labance, Brian McRae, Salin M. Rowland, Preston Pardis, Yangshi Lin, who we just saw doing a little flying for us, Charles Bowley, Stephen Beardsley, Stevie Ray, whose music I've enjoyed many times, Jeff Jacobson, Caleb Patry, Richard Dibdahl, James Coughlin in 24th position. We have a few more drivers as well. Yes, we do. There's Jeff Cantor, Matthew Filipowicz in P26, followed by Andrew Benna, Raymond Blevin, Mark Gehan, Greg Cirillo, Neil Sharma, Andre Jameson, Russ Lundberg, Ken Roller, let's hope he's not a roller tonight, and Paul Romaninski, followed by, last but far from least, Thomas Kristen. What a race we are going to... Oh, my goodness, there's also Tom Ozurovich. I'm so sorry, Tom. You've just cycled onto my screen. So here we go for a little bit of a formation lap. We have a very short formation here, don't we, Tyler?
Yeah, it's kind of right in front of the last corner, so Rivard will control the field as they round that final corner, and he'll be ready to step on it. But tires are going to be cold, tempers are going to be cold, but neither of those will be the case for very long as they set off down the front stretch, and Rivard has taken off.
Yes, indeed, he has. He's got a big gap as they cross the start-finish line, and the lights are out, and we are racing. Here we go, racing toward turn 1. Look at that gap. That is really amazing to see there. Rivard from Everard, Hill able to get ahead of Crab. Everybody seems to be so far navigating turn 1 very well. We are in the here in the loop. I am surprised, honestly. I was expecting to see a whole lot more puffs of smoke and other damage, but so far so good. Rivard, Everard, Hill, Crab, Rakusin, Whitston, Abbott, and Gaspers alone. And Spec Racer Ford there in 8th position, first overall in his class. We have a
bit of dirt being kicked up, but no harm, no foul there. I think all of the 12 skippies that ran wide there, just getting their tires up to temp. I think the gravel helps with that, or so they would tell you. We see a battle for, I believe that is 10th position. That's Hems and Roland going at it in the two skippies there. They settle it with Hems in front. And Gasper's doing a great job in that Spec Racer Ford, holding that big lead. The more skippies he can put between him and second place in class, I think the happier he's going to be.
Yeah, no question about that. Of course, the Spec Racer Fords will be able to benefit from bump drafting one another. If the skippies bump one another, as we see, oh goodness, that is Abbott losing his car, I think, just in the final turn, headed onto the start-finish straight, and there are a couple of other Spec Racer Fords. I think I saw Weatherly's car getting off there. And,
yeah, it was chaos behind them. I think he collected pretty much everyone behind Gasper's. I think there must have been somebody else who lost it in that corner because he cleared off pretty quickly. But what an evasive maneuver from Gasper's, who cut. Oh, as there's contact in turn one again between classes, but everyone continues on. If we could get a replay of Gasper's, he cut all the way to the inside and managed to avoid the spinning car by the Skippies team, I think. But a lot of cars behind him as, oh dear, another Spec Racer Ford goes off track. A lot of cars behind, not so lucky. Seems like a whole host of Skippies, as there are only 7 running in front of the field of Spec Racer Fords continuing on.
So that, we just saw Lynn on Dibdal, and it looked like Lynn was just basically shoving Dibdal out of the way. I mean, that is a reasonable tactic. You know, you want to fill up their mirrors so that everything they see in their rear view is you. I don't think there was any physical shoving there from Lynn on Dibdal, but Dibdal did sort of step out of the way and let Lynn on through, I believe. Nope, it looks like Lynn is actually back behind Dibdal, according to the timing tower. So,
yeah, he's still tucked in back there. We'll see if he has another run down the front stretch. Doesn't seem to be too much of a difference between these cars as we complete another lap. Rakusin sets the fastest lap of the race so far, as Gasper's does in the Spec Racers. Though we'll have a few more across the line to see if anyone can match his time. But it certainly seems that Gasper's has control of the Spec Racer Ford field here, with Lynn some 5 seconds back and behind. Now just one Skippy as Dibdal goes tumbling back behind a couple of the Spec Racer Ford. Lots of position swapping going on there, as I think someone spun around in the background.
That looks like Beardsley in the 009 Ford.
It is indeed, and that is heavily damaged pizza pie of a Skippy. Lost some pepperoni in that one, I think.
Oh, yeah.
As he heads off into the woods and over the tire barrier.
You know, not too much time to recover from a big incident. As you can see there on the top left of your screen in the race, it's only 20 minutes long, so you have a big incident, that's pretty much your race, even if you do get a fast repair. And I don't know whether they do or don't in this race, but it's kind of immaterial. And we're not going to see pit strategy, we're not going to see any of that usual stuff. But we are seeing Gasper's move up into P7 overall, still in the lead. But it looks like, just looking at the timing tower, that Lynn is doing everything he can to hunt down Gasper's. You can see Lynn there just at the top of your screen, and Gasper's now headed into turn 1 as the leaders make their way around the loop. Here is Lynn. Great looking livery has Lynn.
It is. It's a quick lap from Lynn, but unfortunately he's still just not quite on Gasper's pace, so he's going to need to pick it up a little bit as we see some further battling from some battle-scarred Spec Racer Fords. There's a little more contact between the classic Warbird livery and the old Jaguar XJR 14 or XJR 12 Group C livery, which is just a classic.
Ray I think. But you're absolutely right.
It was indeed, and I don't think there's many cars, particularly among the Spec Racer Fords, who are not looking worse for wear. But we jump forward to this battle for second amongst the Skippies. We saw before, Hill was just a bit further back from Rivard than Everard was from him, and it made the tow effect on Everard and Rakusin behind him incredibly dramatic. We saw the closing speed of the Skippies in the draft is particularly effective, and we'll get another chance of it here on board with Everard. Just look how he closes up on Hill. Looks like he gave him a little nudge there or something, or perhaps just let off a bit. Deciding not to make a move into turn 1 here. Presumably Rakusin behind him made the same choice, as we see them all single file through turn number 1. And they head off down towards the rest of the track.
Yeah, this little four-man group is really doing a lot of great work together. You know, if you look at that gap between Rivard and Hill, just over the course of this lap so far, and we're only about halfway through the lap so far, they've brought that gap down from, you know, almost half a second down to under a quarter. And it's just counting away. So I think the four of them have realized, hey, guys, if we take it easy and we work together, we can all tow one another up to the leader. And then it's sort of, you know, anybody's game.
It certainly seems that way, and you wonder if some of the Spec Racer Fords might behoove themselves to utilize the same strategy, but at the moment there's pretty significant gaps between first and second, second and third, third and fourth. Fourth and fifth are together, but that's about it at the moment. It's pretty spread out in the Spec Racer Ford class, but not in the Skippies. We see the top four continuing to work together, if you can call it that, as a couple of them run wide, including our leader Rivard. And Everard as well, promoting Raxton up into third place. We'll see if he can hold it into turn one on the brakes. But these guys are certainly pushing. It's not to say they're taking it easy here in this group. They're simply, I would say, maybe not fighting one another as hard, but they're certainly fighting the track, it seems.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we just saw Hill come by with the fastest lap of the race so far at that 127. And Rivard is only, his last lap was at 129. So, you know, only, what, 2/10 between them. But still, you know, that's more than enough to win the race.
Well, it passes the visual test, too, because we saw them cross the start-finish line the lap before, and we saw them cross the start-finish line the lap after, and there wasn't much in it. So definitely the gaps past the smell test. I think these lap times are all right together. And it's not the case of, even though Hill has closed in on Rivard the last couple of laps, if he were to get by him, you know that Rivard is going to be putting in some quick laps. He's not going to let Hill get away. There's not one car in this group that is notably faster than any of the others. They're all right around the same pace, which is what we were talking about at the end of qualifying there. These are all guys who are pushing hard, but the cars, as Rivard goes wide again, and this time it costs him the lead. And second place as well as Rackison moves through. Rackison might even make a move for the lead here, as we are not even halfway through this 20-minute race. The action has been crazy, but Rackison takes the lead into turn one. So poor Hill, he had the lead handed to him, and he loses it in the same straightaway.
Wow. Rivard goes all the way back to the rear of this four-man lead group. Unbelievable. I bet he's really not pleased with that moment that he had there in the final turn, heading on to the start-finish straight. But hey, these things happen, and at least he's still, you know, still upright and still in contact with the leaders. So there is still time, of course, to make a move in this race. We're not quite halfway through, and this track is, I believe, 2.6 miles long. So as you can see, about a minute 20 per lap. So plenty of laps left to go. Plenty of time for Rivard to do what he can to get back into the lead of this race, if he is indeed able to do so. Now, I wonder if we could see the track map, Dennis. What I'm interested to see, Tyler, is whether or not these guys are going to have to deal with any back markers. And they might. They might
just. The field is pretty spread out from guys who have had to tow back to the pits or make a pit stop for repairs. So certainly a car here or there. I don't know that they're going to find a fighting traffic, you know, guys scrapping for position here, but they should pretend, as Hill makes a move for the lead down the front stretch. I know there's not as much excitement in my voice, because I think this is just going to be the way it goes for the next few laps or so for the rest of this race, perhaps. And I don't think you want to be the guy leading into the last corner. I'm gonna call my shot now, and I'm gonna say I want to be the guy in second place coming into the last corner, and I want to be right on the tail of the car in front of me, because with the tow these Skippies get, I think they're going to be ahead before they get to the start-finish line.
Yeah, no question about that. Now, I know that everybody, all of our viewers right now are probably not professional cycling fans, but I am. And, you know, having raced a bit on the track with a bike myself, I can tell you, you don't want to be in first place. You want to be the guy behind, so that when you make your jump, you have a little bit of time to get by, you know, the leader. And I think that's exactly what you were saying just there. You want to be able to sort of make a sneaky move, if possible.
Exactly, and you don't want to be as far back as Rackison is right now. He's about 3-4 tenths back from Hill. So he may have a run on him into the first corner, as we see Hill the first to take evasive defending maneuvers to try and break the toe there. But you see, by the time they crossed the start-finish line, Rakusin had closed to within a tenth. So if he was, say, 2 tenths behind coming out of that final corner, then Hill's in trouble coming to the start-finish line. But, as there's a little contact between Rivard and Rakusin, both continue on and doesn't look to have too much damage on either, as Everard made an attempt at the lead. And that's the other factor in this is, as much as the car in second gets a toe on first place, the car in third gets an even bigger toe on both of them. So I'm not going to say I want to be in third, but if something happens between the top two battling, third is going to have a heck of a run, and they're going to try and make it stick coming to the line. So I hope these guys can keep it together for these last 8 or so minutes, because I think they could set up for a fantastic finish.
Well, we've seen a whole lot of great racing so far. Loving the lead of the race. Back in Spec Racer Ford, it is, well, we're on board here with Jameson, who's battling with Beardsley, I believe. Or Jameson is being battled by Sharma and Jacobson.
Yeah, a bit of a mixed class affair there. Beardsley leading in the damaged orange Spec Racer Ford. Jameson behind him in the damaged blue Spec Racer Ford. As we see a Mercedes Formula 1 liveried Skippy there. That is Roland, who is holding off, or just got past Jacobson, I believe, because he was behind Sharma. So the Skippies clearly have some speed here, and these are guys who have probably had trouble earlier in the race and are working their way back through other cars who had trouble and maybe aren't as quick and maybe had a little less damage to repair. As we see a green Skippy without a wing letting Rothman's liveried Skippy go by. Yeah, that's Heems and Lundberg there. Lundberg, I think, just limping it back home. As you said, if you pit, there's no hope for you to make anything of significance back up. So you're better off just kind of limping the car around, taking your punches, letting people by, and finish off the race as best you can.
Yeah, as long as you're having fun. Well, here we are back with our lead group of 4 drivers as they go. It looks like they might have, Tyler, it looks like they might have learned their lessons about going wide, about taking the final turn a little bit too hot, because they look pretty clean right there. And now we have a big battle down the start-finish straight to see who will take over the lead. Rivard leads into turn 1 because on the inside, big lockup from the 61 car. That was Everard with that lockup on the inside. Ends up Rivard, Rakusin, Everard, and Hill. So Rivard has managed to get himself back into the lead of the race, but I wouldn't count out Hill. He's got track position in this corner, is not able to make anything of it, and in fact is now back in 4th. He was just, I think, just giving a little bit of racing room there to Everard. And
massive props to Hill there, because I'm pretty sure he looked in his mirrors and saw Everard locking up into turn 1, and he gave him as much room as he possibly could, and that was massive, because there could have been significant contact between those two if he wasn't paying attention to the cars around him. So really great aware racing from these 4. I think Everard maybe got a little overly ambitious there, tried to do a little bit too much, having just tucked back in behind the leaders. As we see a battle further back at the Skippies, this is Roland Pardis, who I noticed the name when you were reading through him. He's actually made a few NASCAR starts. I knew it sounded familiar. And Sharma, I believe in the Ferrari livery, classic Ferrari livery there on that Skippy is, whoa! Roland and Pardis both making their way through the dirt. But I just, once again, these leaders are racing with so much awareness. It's really, honestly, incredibly impressive the way they've managed to maintain this battle throughout the entirety of this race so far.
Yeah, I'm shocked to see that everybody seems to have most of their aero. I mean, usually by this point in the Skippy race, you're missing your front planes and your rear wing is kind of wadded up a little bit, but these guys seem to have all their bits so far. But it's exactly as you say, and that's what makes watching a race like this so much fun, is when you see people really leaving it all out there on the track, throwing their cars around, but also having that respect for one another. Boy, we luck into a great race tonight, and there's another race to go, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely, and that promises to be a barn burner as well. I think there's a beauty in watching some of the slower cars on the surface, and this is true in any racing simulator or racing in real life as well, because they always provide great racing, because you simply, by the nature of the cars, you can't go that much quicker than anyone else. You watch Formula One, they're the quickest cars in the world, but because they're so fast, there's so much opportunity for cars to make a big gap. But when the cars are so slow and have so little power, as we see yet another change in the top 4, I don't think anyone's in the same position they were as they exited the final corner. There's just no way for anyone to gain that significant of an advantage. And it just makes for really excellent racing. I love watching lower series racing in real life. Honestly, I'm a big sports car fan, but I think sometimes the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, as it were, puts on better racing than the main series, as much as I love the main series, because the cars are just that much slower. The drivers are great, and as there's a big slide from Rackison in the lead, it's going to open the door for Evrard. But just to finish my point, there's such entertainment to be had in these slower cars. It just always makes for fun racing.
Yeah, look, just while you were talking, I think we had 3 lead changes. I mean, come on, you're not going to get that in Formula One.
No, you're not. and I can guarantee you they won't be in the same 3 positions they're in right now when they reach turn 1. There's a little wheel-to-wheel contact. Everybody keeps going, but Rackison was on the grass. Rivard going to the outside. He's going to brake on the grass, and that's not going to end well.
Well, yeah, he managed to get himself back on the track, which is great.
Oh, no!
It was a wreck in Castro livery. Oh, but it looks like he missed the leaders. Just managed to avoid the leaders right there in turn 1 in the loop there.
Well, we mentioned there was going to be lap traffic here and there, but that was very close to ending this excellent battle. So thankfully he stayed out of the way as they're working their way past another one of the slower Spec Racer Fords. Now that's the 204 car of Filipowicz. But everyone got their stuff together, and the most interesting thing about this is, while we've been paying attention to this lead group, 5th and 6th have suddenly worked their way to within drafting distance of this pack, or nearly. Crab in 5th place is just about a second behind Rackison in 4th, and Whitston is not far behind him at all. So, dare I say, we may have a 6th car battle for the lead before this is all over, as I believe they're going to take the white flag this time through.
Could well do. We'll keep our eyes on Bernard and see what happens. But yes, Dare, Tyler, Dare. I didn't see any waving there.
I didn't either, which is surprising, given we're 19 minutes into a race that is a minute 20 lap time, but perhaps it's not. Perhaps we're still got 2 more to go. Either way, I think there's going to be a battle for the lead, although Rivard has opened up a tiny bit of a gap with Evrard and Rackison battling behind him. He does have some lap traffic up in front, though.
Yeah, he could turn this into something if he's able to get around some of those cars ahead, although it looks like that Rothmans car is a little bit farther away probably than he would like as we're heading up here to the carousel. Contact between Evrard and Rackison, and that is Rackison drops behind Hill into P4. But
Hill runs wide and Rackison gets the position back, and Crab is going to go for 4th place. So maybe not the fight for the lead that we thought it would be, but certainly plenty of action going on from second on back as Winston runs wide, but still makes the pass stick on Hill. Hill dropping back there. And we are going to get the checkered flag this time through. So Rivard with about a 1.3 second gap. That's probably the biggest lead that anyone has had all race. He's going to work his way across the line in first place, and it looks like everyone knew it was the last lap and sorted themselves out behind them by no fault of their own, just from fighting as hard as they possibly could. So It's Rivard ahead of Everard. Rackison, Crab, Whitston, and poor Hill finds himself in 6th place after being in the fight for the lead pretty much the whole race. Meanwhile, Gaspers is the first spec racer forward across the line. Yuangxi Lin and Ray will likely follow him across, although Ray is some 36 seconds back, so it's going to be a little bit before we see him across the line.
I think that Hill was so annoyed that he just completely got out of the accelerator there and just was sort of coasting along on the start-finish straight. And I think that Gaspers got around him. Not that it matters, for class, but I think Gaspers overall just passed Hill there before the start-finish straight. But yeah, what a race we just saw. That was so much. You're never going to get that much action anywhere else, but than these cars that are so evenly matched. As we see a spec racer having some serious engine trouble. Perhaps it will manage to get itself around to the pits. And while we wait for the official results, let me tell you about the virtual racing school, Tyler. You can improve your on-track performance with 50-plus data packs, road and oval racing setups, track guides, a data analysis software, one-on-one coaching, everything you need. Check out Virtual Racing School. That comes from us, and it will be a great help for you. So here are your official results. Rivard, everything came together for him right at the end of the race, followed by Everard and Rackison in P3, Crab, Whitston, Hill, Bowley, Roland, Pardus, Sharma, Hems, McRae, Lundberg, Dibdall, Nichols, Abbott, another Whitston, Labance, and Roller. And I believe these are all your Skippy finishers, unless I am very much mistaken. And here are your spec racer forwards. Take them away, Tyler. Sorry.
Oh, sure thing. Oh, well, there it is. What? Oh, we had it, we lost it. There it is. David Gaspers is your spec race forward winner. Yuangxi Lin in 2nd place. Stevie Ray behind them, both in 3rd. Following on that podium is Beardsley in 4th. Jacobson rounding out your top 5. Blethen came home 6th, followed by Jameson in 7th. Filipowicz in 8th. Weatherly and Cantor your top 10. Cirillo, Gihan, Benach, Patry, and Coughlin are your top 15. Romansky, Kristen, Ozurovich. Is that everybody?
Not sure.
Okay. Well, that's your top 18. Oh, yeah. That's everybody. All right. Could have sworn we had 20 in each, but that's my mistake. And there is your Spec Racer Ford finishers. So what a race, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize for calling you Taylor. He is, of course, Tyler, the man, the myth, the legend.
You're not the first, and you won't be the last.
Even so, I like to maintain a veneer of sort of professionalism as much as I can. Now, I believe we are, Dennis, help me please, but I believe we are disconnecting and connecting again to the next session. Very good. Thrilled.
And I think we have some advertisements, as they say, across the pond to play for you in the meantime.
Yes, indeed.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfalla.
And Ray Alfalla is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for staying with us. With us. Tyler, I've forgotten how to speak. Oh, that last race was so exciting. It's just got me all tongue-tied. But anyway, we're back. Thank you so much for joining us again. This is the Ray Esports Racing Winter Tour live on Apex Racing TV. I am, again, Jim Hodson. Joining me is Tyler Newitt on co-commentary. And in the production booth is Dennis Branch. Tyler, I'm not sure if I needed to do a full sort of reset on who we are, being as how we've just come back from a previous race, but hey, there it is, right?
I think so. I think people might have forgotten in the short time span. So always good to remind folks.
Yeah, why not? So I think we're going to have a few driver interviews from the previous race. If I'm not mistaken, Dennis will... Oh, beautiful. Zach, there you are. Zach, thank you so much for joining us. So we were just biting our fingernails down to the quick, screaming and yelling on the mics here, watching that race unfold. How are you feeling having taken the win of that race?
Relieved and sweaty. It was just as crazy for us. It was tough with, I think it was 2 or 3 laps to go. I was in 4th, and I didn't really realize that I was in the right spot until I saw the white flag. Yeah,
that thing was really a roller coaster for you, wasn't it? I mean, you You were in the lead, from the beginning of the race. You had a little bit of an off. You dropped back to fourth, and you're mixing up with everybody. It seemed like there was a lot of respect on track, which is great. And then it sort of came together for you, it seemed to me, right there at the end. Is that accurate?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the beginning of the race, I was really confident with my speed because I thought the way the race was going to play out was, flipping for the lead every lap, and I guess that's what it ended up being. But at the beginning, I had pretty good pace and was staying out front. But once I made that mistake, then I had to really start thinking and, try to work with people at times because the second group wasn't too far back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Crab and those guys in sort of P5 and 6 did manage to sort of catch you guys at the end. But I can definitely see why that would be weighing on your mind. So, well, congratulations. And I'm sure that you're pleased that it sort of came together for you at the end. What were you thinking to yourself, as this last lap is unfolding for you and you got a little bit of a gap? How did that feel?
Well, I was pretty confident on the last lap. The biggest nerves was coming into the last turn, coming to the white flag, because I think Reese was in second and he was 9/10 back, and the edge of the draft is about 1.1. So I was worried that he was going to get, an insane draft behind me and, get me coming to the line or something like that. But the way it worked out, they battled just enough in turn 1 for me to get free.
Well, congratulations. Every so often the dice just kind of roll your way, don't they? So anybody you want to send a shout out to?
Definitely my dad, my sister, and my cousin Miles. So they helped me out with in my real world racing. Thursday Pools, Hoosier, SCCA, Steve Ray, and Greg for setting this all up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much to those guys. Great racing. Again, congratulations, and thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Great job.
No, appreciate it. That's Zachary Rivard, your winner of the previous race. As we see on screen, tracks circulating for the next race, I believe. So, yes. Tyler, do you want to speak to the Spec Racer winner?
I sure can, yeah. David Gaspers, congratulations on your win. I have to say, a pretty dominating performance, especially compared to what we saw from the Skippies. You kind of had him handled today. Is that what it felt like to you?
After that first lap, I had a bit of gap, which made my race not that exciting, but it was still a lot of fun. I was hoping to fight a bit longer with a Skippies, but after the car in front of me spun in the last corner there, I sadly lost the draft there, so no chance really there after that.
We saw your evasive maneuver in that final corner. That was really something. You had to make a break for the inside and just barely avoid it. So that was really impressive. Were you thinking, avoiding maneuver, or were you just thinking, I've got to get around him?
I don't really know. I was just steering to the right because I saw he was spinning, and when I looked at the replay, it was really, really close.
Absolutely, yeah. We saw you had some pace early in qualifying. It looked like you might challenge kind of the top of the Skippies. Was there any way it could have fallen your way that you think you could have competed, or were the Spec Racers just a bit too far off the back end?
No, our car is just too slow. We are slower under braking, have less top speed, and in some corners we are also slower, in some faster, but I just had a good draft lap there. That really helps in this car, and yeah, there wasn't anything I could have done there. I think my fastest lap without any draft was about 3 times slower, so yeah, I was already lucky with my qualifying position as it was.
Gotcha. Thanks, David. Do you have anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go here?
Sure, I want to thank Steve. I think it was Steve and whoever else organized this race for organizing it, and of course you for broadcasting it.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much, and congratulations again, David Gaspers, your Spec Racer Ford winner.
Thanks.
Well, what a race it was, and what a race I believe we are going to see coming up here. Tyler, we talked about this a little bit before, So here we're going to see the Audi TCR car versus the MX-5 Cup car, as we see an Eddie Van Halen tribute to the race.
I'm very tired after that. That was mentally and physically exhausting.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it was just, it was elbows out start to finish. But at the same time, it seemed to us, at least here in the commentary box, that there was a lot of on-track respect. Is that accurate?
I would call it a good, hard, close racing. Nobody was leaving an inch more than they had to. But yeah, it was generally pretty clean. I'm pretty happy we were able to shuffle positions back and forth, and nobody was taking each other out. It was good, hard racing. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there were a couple of moments there, just sort of at the end of the start-finish straight, coming into turn one. I think we saw a lockup there, sort of on the inside of the track, and we were, just terrified that there's going to be this giant sort of spaghetti pile of cars. But it seemed that everybody managed to, keep themselves on the straight and narrow, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely it's kind of a game of cat and mouse. Who's gonna hit the brakes first. And luckily today nobody waited too long to hit them, so we kept it nice and clean.
So tell me about your sort of your mental process as the race is developing. How did it feel to you in the cockpit?
Yeah, sure. So right at the beginning, I was happy to get a clean getaway and survive turn one, and just kind of noticed that we had sort of a 4-car pack with Justin, Reese, and Zach. So basically, I just kind of wanted to sit tight. I didn't care if I was first or fourth because we were building up a nice gap to the rest of the field behind us. So kind of play the waiting game until about halfway, and then really start jockeying for position from there.
Well, just speaking as a racing fan, that was really unbelievable show that you guys put on. I mean, lead changes, multiple lead changes on track. We're talking about how, there's no way you're going to see that much excitement in any of the, Formula Ones or even IMSA for that matter. So, I'm guessing that's what you mean by exhausted, because it was so exciting.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, all those position changes and, just the distances that we're driving away from each other, you can measure it in inches instead of feet. So it's a lot of fun. These cars draft really well, so you can kind of stay behind someone, and makes for really good, close, tight pack racing.
Yeah. Well, that was a ball. Thank you so much. Anybody you'd like to send a shout out to?
I'd like to send a shout out to my mom for getting me into go-karting. There we go.
There you go. Look, there is no one better, in my opinion. I had a mom myself. Some don't believe it, but it's true. Well, thank you so much, Rick. Thank you so much once more. Congratulations on your performance. Great race. Lots of fun.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Pleasure.
Well, I nearly forgot about him, Tyler, but I'm so glad that he hung around long enough to get interviewed.
Yeah, always fun to be able to talk to everybody, especially since it seems we have a different field of drivers. Not totally different. There's definitely some guys doing both races. Notice Yangshi Lin is in second once again in the slower class series, currently sitting second in qualifying of the MX-5s. We've got a bit of a runaway pole sitter, or provisional pole sitter as it were, in the Audi TCR class. Nichols has set a time well clear of what I've seen anyone else do in practice or qualifying so far. So going to be interesting to watch here, but certainly the field behind him is tight, and the field in the MX-5s is expectedly tight, I would say.
Yeah, interesting to see how big the difference is between Nichols and Schickel's time. That's, what, 5-6 seconds nearly between the Audi TCR cars and the MX-5. But even so, much bigger field for the MX-5s than there is for the TCR car. What do you make of that?
Well, of course, the MX-5 is a free car, so there's going to be a lot more people who have the car who are going to be wanting to race it. This is a track that I think they race in the rookie series still, so a lot of the guys will be familiar with that car at this track. And some people just don't get along with the TCR car, and I count myself as one of them. I count myself as one of them. I drove the TCR for a bit, and I get that some people really enjoy it, and I just could not get a good feel for it. It's obviously, as a front-wheel drive kind of touring car type car, it's pretty different than most of the other vehicles on this service, and for me and I think a lot of other people, it's just, I don't want to say too difficult to wrap our heads around it, but it's just too different from what we're doing kind of day in, day out on iRacing to spend the time putting into it to get really good at it.
Makes sense. As we see Nichols closing out this qualifying by bettering his time. He just got the fastest lap of qualifying there with that 1:16.6. That was his last lap as we see him launch himself into the stratosphere, and some on-track action there in the rear. There's Ken Roller. He raced with us on the last race, I believe, and as did Roland, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah,
definitely some names carried over, including the aforementioned drivers. I don't know that any of our TCR drivers were in the last race, so perhaps an entirely new.
Maybe
for some reason. Yeah, tough to say, but I'm sure we'll watch back and someone will tell us that all of the TCR drivers were in the previous field, and I'm just oblivious, which is accurate. So, as qualifying comes to a close, I think just a few cars left circulating on track before we get officially to the end of qualifying and move into the race.
Well, while we wait for here they are. Never mind about waiting. Here are your qualifying results. At the top of the timing tower is Murphy Nichols, followed by Thomas Pendergrass, Sean Foes, Andrew Benna, Joe Camilleri, Antonio Garda, Dennis Branch. What? Evan Schickel, the first of the MX-5s, Yangshi Lin, Ken Roller, Preston Pardis, Selin M. Roland in P12 in his MX-5. And then followed by Greg Hubler and Jonathan Davis, Charles Boaley, Mark Labance, familiar name, Bryce Evans, Stevie Ray, of course, raced with us before, Rich Hammond, Stephen Vrooman, great name for racing, Ryan Nicholson, Raymond Blethen, Andre Jameson, Thomas Kristen in P24. Followed, of course, by Mark Gehan, rounding out the field. Now, once again, we are going to see a very short sort of, it's not even a formation lap, is it? Because they start just before the final turn, and they'll follow that pace car around that final turn. The pace car will dive into the pits, and then away we will go. And I think that we will see these TCR cars really sprinting away from these MX-5s.
Yeah, I think for sure the TCRs are going to hit lap traffic before this race is over, not just because of carnage. I think they're going to catch the back of the MX-5 field, which could make for some interesting battling, especially if they catch up to some MX-5s that are in a heated battle with one another. You obviously need to be careful when you work your way through, but Summit Point is not a particularly wide track. And aside from the front stretch, there's no easy way for the car following the overtaking car to get by. So it's going to be interesting to see how these TCR drivers handle that. But they definitely have the pace advantage by a much more considerable margin than we saw between the Skippies and the Spec Racer Forbes.
Yes, no question about it. And we should see some some slightly different lines just because of car weight, layout of the drivetrain and such. As we see your leaders in the TCRs now, it looks like we're having a big gap back to the MX-5s as they come down the start-finish straight. Here go the TCRs. And the lights are on. And they have crossed the start-finish line. So we are now racing toward turn one in this is a big pack of, it looks like 6 cars all together racing into turn one. Nichols covering off the pass by taking that inside in his Smoketown livery. And here come the MX-5 drivers, Yangshi Lin in the front of the pack, in the inside, in the spot that he wants to be in, and manages to hang on to the lead. And I could be mistaken, but I don't think that he qualified in first, but now is in first.
No, in fact, it was Schickel who qualified in first, and he's all the way down in fifth as I saw some MX-5s go spearing off in the background there. Oh, and there's another one off. That's Ray. That's the event organizer, unfortunately. He is off in the background. But yes, Yangshi Lin made the charge from second on the grid, as we see one of the TCR cars off in front of him. He made the charge from second on the grid to the front, but the big loser there was Schickel, who I think is now trying to fight back around the outside of Hubler there for 4th place in class. But these MX-5s, I think, are going to race pretty similarly to the Skippies, and we're not going to see a big gap forming. And if we do, I think we're going to see those sort of battle packs forming, you know, where you get groups of cars who can't really get away from each other. As far as the TCR cars go, though, I think we are going to start to see some gaps form as they have a little bit more power and are less dependent on the draft, and we already see a decent gap from Nichols on back, though that was a little bit expected given his qualifying pace. But Yuangsi Lin maintains the MX-5 lead into turn 1, but there's quite a few cars stepping out of line on the brakes into turn 1 behind him.
Yeah, and what a difference between the fastest laps in the TCR cars and the MX-5s. A whopping 10 seconds between your leader and the MX-5s. A 1:23.6 for Nichols and a 1:33.6 for Yuangsi Lin. There he is, leading the field. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right that we're going to see some similar racing in this track, and we do often see this, don't we, when there are 2 races back to back and drivers just they get used to driving the car that they were driving at the end of the previous session, which had, you know, warm tires and maybe had used up some of its fuel and got a little bit lighter, so had a little bit more performance, and they get into the new car in the second session with cold tires, cold track, and it often does not go too well.
No, for sure. It's not easy to jump between cars because you, especially on the same track, and I think a lot of people will be maybe confused at that. Well, wouldn't it be tougher to go from one car at one track to another car at a different track? But no, it's actually, if the cars are different enough, quite a bit more difficult to switch between cars at the same track, because you have to change up all of your braking points and your you know, corner turn-in markers. Anything that you use as a reference is going to be different between the different cars. So any drivers that are jumping between cars tonight are doing a pretty phenomenal job of resetting their brains and focusing on the car at hand. Obviously, they did have a little bit of time to practice in qualifying as well, but once the race comes, you have to be in the mindset of the new car you're driving. As we look forward to some of the TCR cars, here's a battle for the final podium spot between Garda and Camilleri in the 2 Audi TCR cars. I quite like the plaid livery on Camilleri's car. That's a classic look, I think.
Yeah, no question. Yeah. Yep, there they go. 2. Yeah. So that's Camilleri and Pendergrass? So do we have
that's Garda in front of him. That is Garda in front of him. Pendergrass is the black and red car a little bit further back.
Yeah. Well, we do very much have 2 races going on track. Well, we've got more than that. We've got a half dozen races, I'm sure, as we zoom back to Yuangsi Lin leading this angry pack of MX-5s. You know, we don't quite have a lead group the way that we did in a previous race. As we see, that is Whaley off track in the number 63 machine, and it looked to me, Tyler, tell me what you think, but it looked to me like he got a little bit of a hip check coming down into turn 1 there.
I don't think that's what it was, actually. I think he was a little bit later on the brakes than the cars in front of him. Perhaps too late on the brakes. Maybe he missed his brake marker or something behind the car in front of him, but he looked like, to me, like he took evasive maneuver to avoid hitting the cars in front of him, in which case, good on him. That's good sportsmanship. I mean, obviously, you never want to be the guy to take somebody out. Yuangsi Lin cuts the whole corner in his MX-5, but to me, it certainly looked like more of an evasive maneuver than getting booted out of the way.
I think he was just alongside Schickel there as they came into turn 1. And yeah, you definitely want to try to, if you're going to have an incident, at least try to stay out of other people's cars. And we've seen a lot of people, you know, I think these are veteran drivers on track tonight. We've seen a lot of people sort of observing that ethos. As we slip onto this battle again, as you said, for the final podium place, it appears to be a hotting up between Garda, Pendergrass, and Camilleri.
Yeah, I think Pendergrass must have had an issue earlier on. In fact, I think we saw it happen, because I think he's quicker. Oh, as he gets a nudge from Camilleri behind him and goes spearing off for a moment. But I think Pendergrass is a little bit quicker than these two cars he's racing, because he was a not inconsiderable distance back when we last checked in on this battle. So I think he's working his way back through as Camilleri goes a bit wide there. But perhaps something happened earlier to set him back, I'm not sure, but he does seem to have a little bit of a pace advantage over these two cars, as there's a rather second-hand looking MX-5 behind them. But we jump back to the lead MX-5 battle. Still Yangtze Lin, but still not comfortable by any means.
No, I was expecting to see him be able to sort of pull a gap on this group, but it doesn't seem like he was able to do that, or hasn't been able to quite yet. Of course, we're only just about to take over into the 7th minute of this race of 20, so plenty of racing left to go as we see Schickel having a little look on the number 16, or excuse me, the number 16 machine of Artis there. So now, you wonder if Schickel was saved, of course, as you said, qualifying first, so should have the pace, and I'm sure that he'll want to have a look here on the start-finish line. He does indeed, moves to the inside, and is now alongside Artis. Let's see what happens as they go into turn 1. Is Schickel going to be able to get the car stopped? He does indeed, at least so far. No incidents. Great to see. Great racing. Schickel looks like he's made it stick, Tyler. It looks like he's gotten it done.
It does. He definitely does seem to have the pace that he showed in qualifying. He was the quickest car of this top 5 group the last time around by just a little bit over the car in 5th place Roller. But he definitely does seem to have just a small pace advantage, although you don't know how much of that is following in the toe of the cars in front of him, and there's a very good chance if he does manage to get by Yangtze Lin, the current class leader, that he's not able to pull away, and Yangtze is able to fight back, as we see Pendergrass still working on Garda as Garda takes a defensive line down the front stretch, but I think possibly Pendergrass has enough of a run here to make it work into turn 1. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, an early break there from Garda. Seemed like he just kind of let him have it into turn 1.
It certainly seemed that way, yeah. I think he knew that Pendergrass was quicker than him. Perhaps he'd been pestering him for a little bit. Just decided to get on with the race and let the quicker car through in that instance.
Well, it certainly can be nerve-wracking to have somebody filling up your mirrors. That's why you want to do it. As we see Yangtze Lin in this group, now a group of 5, on back to Roller. Oh, they let it go very late on the breaking into 1, and Yangtze it looks like he's really suffered. Now alongside Schickel as they drive through the chute, heading toward the Wagon Bend, I believe this is called. Yangtze's able to take the lead back.
It's not a corner you can go too wide through either, so wise play there by Schickel to back out of that one. I think he knows he's got a little bit of a pace advantage on these guys, and he's run a very smart race up to this point after his poor start by just taking his time and letting the race come to him as Partis makes a move for second, but he's going to be on the outside of the next corner, but Yangtze Lin is on the far outside of the next corner, and Schickel goes through.
Yeah, I think Yangtze Lin's going to lose 2 places here on the outside of the carousel. He cannot be pleased about that. Wow, what a move that was, by a combined move by Schickel and Partis to wedge themselves by Lin. Lin will not be pleased. He will definitely be looking to make something happen down this start-finish straight.
Unfortunately, he's got no one to blame but himself, because he just dropped a wheel on the grass coming out of that left-hander. It sent him sideways into the right-hander. He's got a decent run on Partis here, but we'll have to see if he's able to make something happen, as Partis also has a run on Schickel. Is exactly what we were talking about. It's going to be very difficult for any of these drivers to pull away from this group.
Well, this is what makes this racing so exciting. We talked about it in the last race, and of course we're going to talk about it again, because we are once again thrilled by this close racing. I'm not sure what happened with the 51 car, except he just didn't manage to get himself stopped. That's Blevin off track there. They were battling for 8th and 9th, I believe, and just didn't get his car stopped into turn 1 there, and did a little cross-country travel.
Yeah, it just looked like he missed his braking points, but the battle rages on with the 2 cars that he was fighting with. I believe that's Davis and Evans. Davis in 7th place. No, I'm sorry, that's Evans and Jamison for 8th and 9th place. Evans takes a bit of a tighter line there. any other corner, you'd think that's a defensive line, but really he just let the car run out from the kink beforehand. It's just Jameson kind of tightened up the corner to try and get a better run through, but you're compromising the exit of the corner before. It's a very technical section in this track, and in these cars, it may look like a defensive maneuver, but really he's just running what I think is the optimal line through there.
Well, I'm sure our viewers have noticed that people do take that corner in sort of two different ways, as you were just talking about. And here we have Schickel from Pardus from Lynn as they go into turn one. Pardus letting it really going wide and letting Lynn. I think Lynn is going to scamper on through for P2. Indeed, he does. And now it looks to me like Schickel has got a little bit of a gap on these guys.
He does. He did get a tow from the lap car in front of them down the front straight as they worked their way around it, and it didn't hold him up too much either, which is great for Schickel. Any advantage, aero advantage he can get to break the tow is going to be huge for him. But I think we're going to see through here, Yuangxi maybe keep pace or tighten it up, and then once they get back onto the front straight, as he continues to take massive chunks out of that curve, I think once they get back to the front straight, it's going to be difficult for Schickel to pull too much of a gap as long as Yuangxi stays within drafting distance, which he certainly is right now, well within a second of it.
Well, he's not doing himself any favors driving all over the curbs like that, but hopefully he'll be able to keep it tight, keep it on track as we ride on board with Pardus here. We are looking back at Roland's car, and here goes your lead group in the MX-5 Global Cup cars.
Certainly a bit more spread out than they were a couple laps ago, and even with Schickel running wide, they're not tightening up as much as they had the previous laps, and you wonder if some of the fighting that they were doing is just taking a toll on some of their tires. We saw Schickel being unbelievably patient working his way through, and you wonder if maybe he's just taking a little bit better care of his rubber to keep his car better under him than the cars following, as we see the overall leader and the TCR leader, Nichols, coming up behind this 8th and 9th place battle between the MX-5s as another MX-5 is coming back on the track in front of them. That is the car that we saw in front of the leaders not too long ago. Looks like the TCR leader will get through here without too much trouble. He's certainly got the pace that we saw in qualifying, as he is in 13 minutes of this race opened up a 12.5 second gap over Benek behind him. That's some advantage, I would say.
Yeah, certainly in a lap, in a fairly short race, is the one that we have tonight, as we just watched the clock ticking its way toward the 14th minute of a 20-minute race. So we should have, I would say 3-4 laps, something like that, to go, as we see Schickel rounding the final turn onto the start-finish straight, followed by Pardus.
And Schickel ran wide again, and he's going to have to be careful about that, because this time it's allowed Lynn to close up on him. I don't know that he's going to be able to get much of a run here, but he had to go defensive this time as he made the mistake once again running wide. We saw the same thing happen with our eventual Skippy winner in the last race. Zach just kept pushing that boundary until he pushed a little too far and dropped to the back of the lead pack there. So it's a bit later in the race now, so Schickel definitely doesn't want to be doing that anymore, or else he's in danger of dropping to the back of this group, as Pardus and Roland both run well wide, but get back on track and maintain their position.
I've heard it said that you do your best racing in second place. So maybe that's what we're seeing a little bit here from Schickel. He's feeling the pressure, maybe not driving as fast as he was when he himself was in P2.
Well, for sure, because
for us is we're getting a great, performance.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's perfect for us. But there's certainly some truth in that, because you have the advantage in the car following to use your opponent as a reference. And if you are confident in your abilities, not only can you use your opponent as a reference, as Schickel runs wide once again. What was I saying? I mean, he ran way, way out there that time. And I think kept his foot in it, and that's the only reason he's maintained the lead at the moment. But Yuangxi Lin will have a run here. But anyway, as the car following, if you are confident in your ability, and you watch when the car in front of you brakes as they head side by side into turn one, is Yuangxi going to be able to hold it around the outside? I don't think he is. We'll have to see there. Nope, he tucks back in behind him. But if you're confident in your abilities, you have the ability to brake just that little bit later than the car in front of you and make up the time and make better lap time than they are. Of course, the danger in that comes if something happens like Schickel, who's been running wide in the last corner every time. You try and brake a little bit later than him, it's not going to end well for either of you. So at the moment, Yangtze Lin putting on a stellar performance now behind Schickel, where he wasn't able to in front of him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A great race here at isn't it amazing that the race that is the race that is the most fun to watch at the moment is the MX-5s, not the TCR cars, which are much faster, more powerful cars with a lot more aero. Not that they're not a lot of fun, I'm sure that they are. So we're riding on board here with Schickel looking back toward Lin. Lin just dying to get around him.
Well, I have to say, if I was Lin and I was watching the last race, which we know he was because he was in it, I wouldn't be dying to get around Schickel. I'd be dying to stay as close to Schickel as I possibly could, but I'd be wanting to wait until the opportunity to make a move and force Schickel into a mistake arises. And we've certainly seen that Schickel is not impervious to mistakes, as he did finally manage to make the last corner without running wide this time, but obviously as the overall leader is working his way through this group, and we'll have to see if he lets these guys, he does, that's smart from him to let these guys battle it out in front, but he will be working his way past into the next corner, I would believe.
You know, Tyler, I wonder what's going on. Well, now the leader is between Lin and Schickel. Schickel's going to be licking his chops here, thinking maybe he can get away. He can't, of course, with a TCR car. Nevertheless, I think 3 laps in a row now, we've seen Lin through turn 1, through the loop, go the long way round. And I wonder why. I mean, I understand that, if he thinks he's able to race for place by doing that. But on the 3rd time, I wonder what he's thinking.
Well, he doesn't have much of a choice, does he? I mean, unless he tries a pretty dramatic dummy move on the brakes into turn 1 after Schickel is faded back to the racing line, as we see 5th place Roller running off there. Schickel's been defending hard on that inside line and really not moving over until he begins to brake. So I don't think Yangtze has much of a choice. I do think once the clock runs out, he may start to force the issue, and I don't think we're far from that. I believe we got 2 more laps now, including the one they're on. So if I'm Yangtze, I am looking for any crack in the armor, but unfortunately Schickel has been pretty bulletproof despite his aggressive racing.
Yeah, well, we are, of course, the beneficiaries of all that racing as we see Schickel come over the hill with Yangtze Lin hot on his heels, followed by Pardus, and it says rolling. So this rolling a little bit loose there, but managed to collect the car and get going again. It looks like these guys are catching lapped traffic.
It was a Roller who ran off. I may have misspoke there.
Gotcha.
Similar names. Roller ran wide in the last corner and has reset to the pits. I think he's out of this one. So it's a 4-car battle now for the MX-5 Cup lead.
Indeed, and I think it's going to be, as you say, I would expect these guys to see a white flag this time.
Yeah, for some reason, I'm not seeing the flagman animated, but we had that happen last race as well, and this is definitely the white flag, as the overall leader is not that far in front of this group. So, unfortunately for Yangtze, that's by far the best passing opportunity on the track that they just went through, and I think he's going to have a tough time making anything happen. But a race is never over until they cross the line, and it's certainly not impossible for Schickel to make a mistake somewhere along here, so we'll keep our eyes peeled as, whoa, Pardus and Roland having a competition to see who can kick up the most gravel, and I think Roland won it. But Lin is right on Schickel. Unfortunately, there's just not much he can do, as Pardus kind of threw it down the inside there and maybe took away Lin's only opportunity there.
Yeah, he really tried to get down the inside of Lin, and I thought it was going to work for a second there, but really Pardus is really flinging that car around, just doing anything he can to try to take that spot away from Lin, get on the 2nd step of the podium, all over Lin's tailpipe at the moment.
Yeah, I think the battle here is going to be for second, as Nichols has crossed the line to take the overall win, and just a stellar performance from him. A 17-second gap in 20 minutes is nothing to scoff at, but we focus on where the battle is, and it looks like it's going to shake out. Well, I guess they've crossed the line, so as they were to start the final lap, it's Schickel, Lin, Pardis, Roland, your top 4 in MX-5.
Yeah, some TCR cars bouncing around on track there. Well, what a race that was. We've had 2 great races tonight. Thrilled about it. As we wait for the official results, let me just tell you about SDK Gaming. That is who provides all of this timing and these overlays. You could have this virtual live HUD for your own iRacing. You can show timing towers, enhanced, relative boxes, mini maps, fuel calculations, the works. You could stream it to Twitch. The most complete overlay on iRacing. It's my favorite. Broadcast to your league, to your series. The SDK Gaming syncs your commentary team's cameras. That's what we're using tonight, right now. That's how we're all able to see the same thing. You can focus on driving and overlay with the broadcaster. It's the best. Adjust your team strategy on the fly with the most accurate live timing in iRacing. That is SDK Gaming. We all use it. We're not just talking about it. We all use it, don't we, Tyler?
Sure do. Using it right now, and I use it when I'm not doing the broadcast as well. It is super duper handy.
You betcha. So that is our MX-5 result there, which we're going to see first, I gather. And away it goes. And here comes TCR. So congratulations are very much in order to Murphy Nichols, your overall winner, your TCR winner. He has a 20-second gap on P2. Andrew Benna, followed by Thomas Pendergrass, Antonio Garda, Joe Camilleri, Sean Foss, and Dennis Branch. Well done to those TCR winners.
In MX-5, we have Evan Schickel, your winner. A stellar comeback drive after a rough start from the pole. Yuangxi Lin is your runner-up, and Preston Pardis rounds out the podium here in MX-5. Roland and Hubler round out your top 5, followed by Davis, Jameson, Bowley, Evans, and Vrooman. Really, as you mentioned, an excellent racing name. That is your top 10. It's Raymond Blethen, Gehan, Nicholson, Hammond, Roller, your top 15. And rounding out the field were Thomas Christian, Mark LeBlancs, and Stevie Ray.
Fantastic. What a race it was. I think we've got a couple of drivers waiting for interview. I think I just saw Schickel and then he disappeared. Maybe he'll find his way back.
For sure, we've got Murphy Nichols, our overall winner, waiting.
Well, here he is. And there he goes. We'll make this happen, guys. Don't you worry. There he is. And there he goes. Guys, this.
Well, Schickel is back, so why don't we pull him in?
Yeah. Evan Schickel, thank you so much for a great race. Congratulations on your performance tonight. You must be feeling pleased with yourself. How do you feel?
I think he is on mute. Unfortunately.
He is on mute.
Nobody wants to talk to us, I guess, unfortunately. We don't bite, but Evan Schickel, you with us now?
Man down. Mayday. Well, he's a man of few words, but he did a lot of great driving tonight. It feels good to me. Tyler, tell me what you think, but it always feels good to me when the same guy qualifies in P1 and finishes the race. Feels like a command performance.
Well, it does, although it's hard to say he dominated the race. As we mentioned, his start was a little shaky, but we do have the man who I think would probably disagree with us, given he started second and finished second. Yuangxi Lin, welcome to the booth. Are you with us?
Yes, for sure.
Very good. Yuangxi, unfortunately, you weren't able to tick off the win box, though you made a valiant attempt. you certainly led a bit and proved to be I would say the fiercest competition for Evan Schickel. What was it like for you out there? Did you have some fun?
Yes, for sure. I'm still shaking a little bit. It was very intense.
I bet it was. Now, in my personal racing, I have met you in the V8 Supercar, which is a totally different beast from an MX-5 Cup car or a Spec Racer Ford for that matter. But you seem to jump between all three of them without much issue. Do you have a favorite of the bunch? Certainly, 2 second places indicates you don't play favorites, but do you have a preferred car?
Yes, I usually race in the Spec Racer for both. There is a league created by SDK member Steve Ray. We usually have 60 cars that we follow the official schedule and we run on Sundays. That was the best racing, I would say. V8 supercars for me is a little bit hard to control. I would say when I do not have 100% confidence in the car, I can't really let myself to battle with someone else like we do in these slower cars.
Very good. Yeah, fair enough. Having raced you, I would say you're selling yourself a little bit short, but that's I'm not going to argue with you. Certainly, we saw you. We were having a discussion in the booth about whether it's better to be in second place or to be leading, and certainly you seemed to have a little bit more control and a little bit more pace when you were following Evan Schickel. Do you feel like you were? Do you like being the charger or do you like being the leader? Would you rather have just been hanging on to the lead and fighting from the front?
That is actually a very good question. I'll say maybe I was dropping a little bit pace at the start because I'm not used to being the lead. Yeah, I'm usually not fast enough to being the lead. I usually set a target for myself, have a prey to hunt. So when there's no one in front of me, I actually don't know what to do.
Very good. Yeah. Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go here, UNC?
Yeah, big shout out to SCCA, to Greg and Steve organizing this event. I really enjoyed the MX-5 race. I mean, the Spec Racer race was slightly boring because I'm not really close to anyone. But yeah, we have Evan there being the entire race, also prayed us. I mean, he is the SCCA run-off winner. I'm very surprised that I both out-qualified and out-raced him. I suspect he was default setup, maybe. But yeah, this is definitely one of the most intense races I've had in a while. And yeah, thanks to you guys broadcasting it.
Very good. Yeah, something to hang your hat on there, beating a real-life runoff winner. Once again, your second place finisher in MX-5, UNC Lin.
Well, what a race. Both our races they were tonight. Yeah, just I feel like I need a lie down, Tyler. I've had so much excitement. I'm a very old man. I need I'm gonna have to have a little bit of a rest.
Yeah, let's have another shot at getting our race winner in here. Looks like it does seem to be working a little bit better this time. Are you with us, Murphy Nichols?
Yes.
Why don't you take this one, Jim?
I would love to. So congratulations on the finish of your race, your overall win, and of course your class win in TCR as we see you on screen in your Smoketown livery. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. The one nice part is that I've actually been practicing this car for a couple months now, running with another league, the Washington, D.C. region SCCA league. So I got to give a big thanks to them for helping me get a ton of practice in. And it also kind of helps that this is actually my home track. But I feel good. I feel happy. This is actually my first big league win, if you want to call it that. And
yeah, I'll call it that for sure.
I'm like, I know I keep saying it, I'm really happy with myself.
Well, we're happy with you too. An unbelievable lead, really a command performance. So it wasn't just it's not at all like you backed into it. I mean, you had time to you could have stopped in the start finish straight and read a book near the end of the race there.
Yeah, that's a little true. I will say the one part I got nervous with was when I came up to the lead Miata pack, because I was really hoping that it wasn't going to come to that. But as soon as I came up to them, I was like, all right, I need to get through this pack. I need to get through this pack quick, and I need to get through them clean with hopefully not messing up their race, which, at least from what I saw, I don't think I messed it up too much. Although I kind of felt a little bad for Youngshi because I kind of held him off from getting close to Schickel in the back half of the course. But luckily, I was able to get around Evan at turn 9 and just kind of pull away from there.
Yeah, well, I think they finished pretty much closed up with one another. I don't think you affected anything adversely. In fact, we were saying here in the commentary booth how, we were kind of complimenting that everybody seemed to really mind their P's and Q's. Nobody wants to take anybody out, so it seemed to me to go pretty well. So anybody you'd like to say thanks or give a shout out to?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. First, big shout out to my mom and dad for being my biggest supporters throughout all this. A couple of the guys at Brunswick High School for just being longtime friends and also being big supporters through this. Obviously, got to thank the guys at Smoketown Brewing Station for being a great sponsor. And I got to thank a bunch of the guys in the SCCA, both in the Washington, D.C. region and in the Found Nations League. It's some of the best people I've ever had the chance to meet. They've taught me a lot through the time I've been racing, and I'm glad to call a lot of those guys my friends. And last thing, I want to thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast tonight.
Well, thank you so much. We will take your acclaim happily. Well, once again, your overall leader, Murphy Nichols, congratulations on a great race, and congratulations to us on all the excitement tonight. Once again, I have been Jim Hodgson, joined by Tyler Newitt in the co-commentary position, and of course, in production tonight was Dennis Branch. Not that Dennis Branch, the other Dennis Branch. So it has been a ball. We cannot wait to do this again. Thank you so much for having us, and we will see you next time.